Welcome to the Spiritual Connection Podcast. I am your host, Jill. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about your energy, their energy, manifesting, mindset, creating high vibrational healing for you, body work, the importance of massage and self-care, and much, much more. Let's get rolling. Welcome back, everybody, to Om Shanti Healing Spiritual Connection Podcast. I am so happy to have Tamara Reid back on with me from Your Rooted Truth. Hey, Tamara, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
I am thrilled to see you and speak with you again. We always have such great conversations. So, Tamara, in the past episodes, has talked about bioresonance and how it helps with animal healing. Those that have been listeners, faithful listeners, we've had her on a couple times talking about that, and we talk about energy and just the human condition and how we struggle around certain things and how it relates to our animals and how they behave. And we're going to talk about today on an in-depth level and kind of break it down what victimhood might mean to the person struggling with it, and just kind of break it up into different sections and evaluate each one to just really kind of create a foundation around the why someone might be stuck in that place. And then, of course, how their animals respond to that. Right.
Exactly.
So, Tamara, thank you so much again for being on. How do you want to start this conversation?
First, thank you so much. As always, I love being with you and I love spending this time with you. So thank you. And like I said, this is always such an exciting opportunity to pass on knowledge I've learned about myself first and foremost. How I want to start is to try to soften the word victimhood. And first, also putting a little, my favorite little disclaimer about myself is I went through a very sad divorce, and he and I are good now, and that sort of thing, and have done our work in order to come full circle and have a respectable relationship and stuff. But I fully admit, and my favorite saying is that not only did I move to Victimville, but I bought a house in Victimville. And I like to say I also put out a lovely doormat, like sad and grief and all of those real feelings were there. But where I was looping was in the feeling of he did this to me. And these are the reasons that I cannot move forward. Or I thought I was moving forward, but unconsciously I wasn't, because I really was stuck in that victimhood. And so victimhood is something that I've worked with animals, and the animals, and breaking down the word into the emotions that are the foundation of victimhood. And the reason I did this was that I was realizing, working with the animals don't have victimhood. They don't want to stay in their stories and their looping stories and that sort of thing. But the human component of that is reminding them of their sad stories or their sad beginnings or their trauma or the tragedies that have happened to them in their lives. So how can I work with frequency in helping animals really become more autonomous from their humans and not having that looping grief behavior, heart sickness? And then I realized that I also now have started not realizing, I'm finding that I'm also now working with humans and with animals. So there's so many natural paths around the world that work with humans using frequency, and they, obviously having incredible results. So I felt like animals were underrepresented, so I focused on that. I'm really finding the connection between the animals and the humans and their caretakers. Um, and so I found that I've taken on more human clients as well. Humans really kind of stuck in their own stories. And how can I help the animal move forward and shift and that sort of thing? And like I said, has been the caretakers and that sort of stuff. So victimhood is something that I was so excited once I started breaking down the emotions of it, what the emotions are that make up victimhood. Okay, so are you ready for them?
Yeah, let's break it down into sections and kind of have a convo on section, but let's hear what your bullet points are on that first, and then we'll kind of backtrack a little bit.
Okay. The first one in victimhood, which I thought was powerful, was powerless, feeling powerless. And then there was anger and resentment. And then there was shame. There was hopelessness, fear, and then sadness or grief. And then all of those, though, when you boil them down, they're all fear responses. They're all, your body responds to those. You feel, all those emotions in some organ or another. If you believe in Chinese medicine, and every emotion is held in different organs of the body and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, very true. That can then manifest in disease or illness or pain.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So let's talk about powerlessness, because I think that is really the big one as far as victimization, self-victimization, scapegoating, all your accountability and responsibilities, and never really doing any evolution of self to
Mhm.
move into a place of empowerment. Sitting in a place of powerlessness has some sort of reward,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
people stay there. It gives
Yeah.
them an excuse to not do anything about it. And they're reaping the benefits of what? Pity,
Right. Right.
irresponsibility.
Right.
It's an excuse for them not accomplishing much,
Right.
right?
That's so
And
true. Mhm.
there's value in that for some people that like to
Right.
sit in that place,
And
right?
the value is actually called, in psychological terms, it's called a gain. What do you gain by this? If I'm powerless, what is my gain? My gain is then that I'm not then responsible for my life. That my gain is that it's not my fault that life is happening to me. Life isn't happening for me, it's happening to me. There's
Exactly.
your powerlessness. The gain
Yeah.
is also this feeling of like, well, if this happened to me, then exactly like you said, then I don't have to get up each morning, then I don't have to function, then I don't have to live my happiest life, then I don't have to, then it's not expected that I
Right.
actually am happy and have a joyous life. And that's it.
Right.
And I can admit that my powerless came from the feeling of, if he is happy and has moved on, had found a new girlfriend, then that somehow my gain was, that was a reminder to me of how I wasn't worthy of that. So there's worthiness in that, and there's, all that self criticism. And for me, honestly, the foundation to all of this is also the shame. Like, you can take any of these and, oh, there's the shame, there's the childhood shame, there's the, what was your childhood like? What were your parents like? And all that kind of stuff. So feeling powerless also comes from a childhood. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, if we're hit with something that really brings a lot of grief into our life, like a breakup,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to me, it's okay to sit there for a little bit in victimhood. I mean, you got to
Oh,
go through all the
absolutely.
phases, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
and at the very beginning of it, you feel victimized because the grief is there. Something's been taken away from you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
There's been a huge loss, or whatever the scenario goes, where you feel victimized, like something bad happened to you that altered your life in a negative way.
Oh,
Being in a
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Mhm.
it's normal human behavior, I think, to sit in that for a little while. But
I agree.
then to stretch it out for years and years and use that as an excuse to not evolve, to
Right.
me, is weakness. It's like, okay, we're victims, great. Fester in that for a bit and then find some ways to move out of it, because it's going to keep you in the past. It's going to keep you stuck.
Yeah.
And then you're going to use it as an excuse to not
To
do
live not live
anything
your best life.
productive,
Yeah.
right? It's
Right.
an
Right.
excuse for everything. Poor me, boo-hoo, and get
Right.
off your butt and move to make yourself feel better. right?
Well, and there's the exactly. So there's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is giving yourself grace. And that's why this victimhood wasn't meant to be. There's absolute room for kindness and love of yourself and climbing in your bed and pulling the covers over your head. And there really is always, always, always room for grace. And like you're saying, there's even those moments where you take a step forward and maybe you take two steps back and then you're forward and you're taking two steps back. That's still movement, and that's still you starting to step into your being powerful versus
Exactly. Yeah.
staying in the powerless. Yes.
Yes, very much so. In that victimization, that all the phases, the anger, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
resentment, the shame, the hopelessness, the grief of it all. These are
Yeah.
all just human condition phases that we go through,
Right. Right.
right? To move through trauma.
Right. Oh, very much so. I think what I notice a lot is people seem to stay the maybe the quote unquote comfort zone, maybe the anger stage. And it still boils down to feeling powerless. Like, again, if they can dot, 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 then I'm powerless to change my life because somehow they're taking back their power is affecting me feeling powerless. Like it's still this looping. And then the anger is all liver. As we know, Chinese medicine, it's all liver. So what are we doing to really take care of our liver? And how are you doing in the cleansing of that in order, once again, for you to take that power back and move forward?
Yeah.
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 And it can be very difficult. I've been through that rough divorce too. We had a whole another podcast about that.
Yes.
And it was in 2020 and I numbed for 2 years. We were in quarantine, the kids were homeschooling, I was going through divorce. It was just a whole lot all at once. And I couldn't even deal with my victimization really for 2 years,
Yeah. Yeah. Or you
and
were in
then
it. The truth
I
is you were
was
in it.
processing, but like when I went off my antidepressants and I unnumbed myself from those years, and I said, okay, whatever divine sort of teachings and lessons need to show up for me to be my strong badass on the other side that I know and I see and I feel in my future.
Hmm.
Bring it on. Bring on whatever I need to walk through. And I got really, really sick, and it was hard. And I was in victim mode for a year and a half. I
Mm,
really
yeah.
was, where I went through the powerlessness and the anger and the resentment and all the blame and all the grief and the anger of myself too. Towards the end of that healing, like I got, I had to heal through the guilt of the pain I caused him,
Yeah. Yeah.
and be accountable for my participation in the relationship
Hmm.
dissolving and ending, because it takes two to ruin something,
Hmm.
right? There's
Hmm.
contribution from both sides, whether it's talked about or not.
Yeah.
There's energy there that doesn't feel right, and the relationship falls apart.
Right.
And I definitely contributed to that. And I had to look at that, you
Right.
know,
And then the
and
key is there
forgive
though too.
myself and apologize to him in a letter that he will never see. But I wrote it out and
Yeah.
that made
Good
me
for
feel
you.
better, and
Love it.
that empowered me because
Hmm.
I faced it, like, yeah, this is my fault too.
Yeah. And I wrote actually my husband the same letter. I actually wrote it though and sent it to him. I sent him an email and said, here's my part in this. Here is my regrets. Here is even though I didn't owe him that, let's be real, I didn't sabotage the relationship and stuff like that. But it was important for my healing, for me to send that
Yeah.
to him. And the truth was, I think the best part of sending something like that, if ever you decide you want to do this, that my truth is that um, it is wonderful just sending it and then not expecting a response. Like there really was no expectation to even speak to him about it. Like just sending this to you. And then once I hit that send, I was done with it. And we did end up having a conversation, and it's amazing how opening that is when somebody else can also take some accountability for the relationship as well and stuff. And,
Yeah.
obviously within reason, if it's something you feel like it can warrant a healthy response versus somebody who just, like
Yeah.
your husband maybe might have been different.
Absolutely. Like that, if I were to send a letter of apology and accountability to him, he would use that as ammunition to
Yeah.
lash out, reject, and do the things that he does that he likes
Yeah.
to do to cause me pain. So I'm not going to do that. But it
Right.
made me feel better to just write it out and cry it out and like grief cry around it. And it's like peeling back the next layer. And that powerlessness around that kind of dissolved and went away. And the victimization that we get ourselves in, you know, is there at times, but you have to remind yourself that this is a temporary condition, right?
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
always growing, learning, challenging ourselves,
Right.
right?
Right.
And becoming stronger and getting out of victimization is up to you. You make a choice to stay in there in that place and use that to drain other people's energy, to not be accountable or responsible for much in your life, and to not get out of, to not get out of your comfort zone that you're in and do something that's going to make you grow, right?
Right. I
There's,
also I also think that's the beauty of what, like I said, what we do and what amazing, people around the world do is also going to your therapist, your energy healing, your Reiki, your hypnotherapist, your all of those things. And then, my reminder of even working with clients that I work with is as an energy quote healer, our job is just to pull the band-aid off. You then get to ride the wave of emotions that then come up and lifting up, as I call it, tearing up those floorboards and stuff like that. So there are support systems. And for me, I will say that one of the best things I've done for myself is meditation. So I not only use Jill or whoever else I do, cranial sacral work, or I can do, I've done energy work, I've done plant ceremonies and all of those kind of things in order for me to be a healthier functioning human that I am now to this day. But I will tell you that I also incorporate a lot of my own meditation and asking my guides to help me to soften, like when something else comes along and it's another, oh, like ugh, blow, so to speak. I always contact my guides and say, can you please just take this off my shoulders and lessen this feeling, this
yeah,
overwhelm and stuff? And I swear, the more I ask, the more I receive.
yeah.
So, we do have absolutely a support system, whether it be other people or within ourselves.
Very true. Very true. There's a plethora of options, and there's also remote options too. If you're in an
Yes.
environment where there isn't a lot of physical resource nearby,
Right.
look online. I mean, we have so much out there that you can reach to help you just peel back the next layer of whatever you're going through
Right.
and get to the other side because you will be reborn. There will be power in that, and to
Mhm.
not be afraid of it.
Right.
Victimization keeps you small and it
Yes.
keeps you heavy. Do you
Hmm.
want to stay there or do you
Hmm.
want to be light and big and bright and powerful and
Yeah.
accomplished? We have a
Yeah.
short life to live.
Yeah.
What is your story going to be?
Right. I agree.
It's a choice.
I
It's a
agree.
choice. For a lot of us, not, there's various circumstances out there, of course, where
Right.
victimhood could be a very physical thing, right?
Hmm.
Victimization,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Totally different topic. We're speaking on the power of choice, you know, and that you do have a decision to make. for a lot of
Yes.
us. Are we going to stay
Yes.
there? Are we going to walk a path that might be a bit uncomfortable to get out of it? And what I've learned, another tool that I've used too is microdosing. That if you doing that on, like a 5 day and then a couple days off kind of regiment is a very gentle way to slowly unravel things and look at things. And what I've discovered in my healing through my divorce and my traumas through my life is that a huge part of getting out of victimization is self-love. Like,
Oh, very much
what do
so.
you need to do?
Hmm.
You get cues, you get hits on what your body's asking for to make you feel better,
Right.
whether it be exercise, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or hydration, or more sleep, or stop smoking all that weed, or quit cigarettes, or whatever it is, cut
Hmm.
down on your booze intake. Whatever it is that you're doing to sabotage your growth, you're
Hmm.
going to get hits on what those things are. Your intuition will tell you, you know,
Right.
this needs to change.
And
You need
also,
to
what I,
change. This
yes,
needs to stop, or you need to shift, pivot, and do something better for your body that's going to nourish you and make you feel better. Whatever that self love is,
hmm,
adding as much of that into your life as you can
and the
to help
self-love
you feel
is
better.
right. And the self-love is created by doing things like I always say, give yourself a 30-day trial, give yourself a 30-day challenge where maybe twice a week you do something that pushes you out of your comfort zone and at the end of the day makes you proud. Like for me, what I started doing was I'd go to the movies by myself. I would go eat somewhere by myself. I would, I'm not going to just stay home and get work done. I'm going to walk somewhere and go in. And even if it's the library, even if it's a new store, even if it's, I'm going to get in the car and go explore on my own and, talk to strangers and, start a conversation with somebody maybe you necessarily wouldn't have, initiated it with and stuff like that. Like those are the little things I kept on trying to challenge myself to do because I was brand new here in Colorado and didn't know a soul. So I was constantly like, how can I make myself proud today? What little accomplishments can I make for myself today? So at the end of the day, exactly, whether it's exercise or whatever, that was a big part of it. But those little challenges we do, like, like I said, how did I make myself proud? So the other thing is my one of my favorite things to do is I love to, in motivating also people when we're in our victimhood and stuff like that is even if your power comes back to you initially, even in an anger response, like I'm going to show him, and it's a big F you to the world who told you couldn't do it. That's empowering. Eventually, you need to process that anger, but if that's your fuel, awesome. You're still moving forward. The other thing, at least for me, that was important was I read a study that the health and well-being and the happiness of our children depends on the mother's happiness. It's statistically proven that it was more dependent on the mother's happiness. So I was determined that I wasn't going to stay in this looping behavior, a looping thought process, and self-hate because of the fact that I had a son and I wanted to show him a happy, show him or have him feel my happiness, not just even show him because I can act through that. It was a feeling of like, just how do I start making myself happier, proud, get to that self-love in order to help my child move forward, as well as helping him also then start incorporating that in his own life because, as we all know, our children go through this as well. And I will tell you that one of the things that I've really worked on with my son is his victimhood. Like I really recognized that was a looping behavior within him as well. So,
Yeah. And it's so true as the mother, growing our babies in our womb and raising our children up. If we are in a bad place, they're going to feel that,
mhm.
and they're going to react to that.
Yeah, yeah.
As they're little, as they're babies, toddlers, especially, those really vulnerable ages where they get the imprint of who they're going to be between ages 0 and 8. where they really pick up your personality, the behaviors, the energy. They start to cognitively process information and the feelings in the house, whether they know they're doing it or not. And
Mhm.
that really kind of molds and shapes their perception of the world as
Mhm.
they grow into adulthood.
Right.
And if you're in a bad place, they're going to be there too.
Right. Oh, very much so.
So
Yeah.
even if you got to fake it till you make it for the sake of your babies,
Right.
show up in a certain way for your
Mhm.
kids. And I did that for a long time,
Mhm.
until I was ready to say I was done,
Right.
and my babies did not feel it. We never fought in front of them or anything. There was no screaming and, or anything like that. But they felt it. They could feel my sadness and my anger, but it was never projected to them
Yeah.
in a way that was
Although if they felt it,
damaging.
and the
They
way
felt
children
it. Oh,
are, they
absolutely, they
do
felt
feel
it.
like
I
it's
did the
theirs.
best
Yeah.
that I could
Mhm. Yeah,
with
absolutely.
the amount of energy I had,
Right, right. And I was
right?
a yeller. I became a yeller. Like I remember that. Like it's not something I'm proud to admit, but there for a while because I had a husband who walked away from arguments and, just his shame threshold was up to his eyeball, past his eyeballs, past his hairline. He couldn't hear me even expressing a little bit of unhappiness and that sort of thing. So I became a yeller. And I'm not, like I said, it's not a proud moment. But it's something where at least now, and like I said, that was just a true component of showing how unhappy I was. And so really coming, and for me it was absolute anger, and it wasn't just anger from a marriage. It was an anger from feeling like I was powerless in my marriage in that way, and feeling like ultimately that I was powerless, as goes back to my childhood of feeling like I was just this abused child who was absolutely powerless. And so
Yep.
my go-to, they call it your Z pattern, which is, and I'm a Sagittarian and stuff like that. You go from one to the next emotion. Mine is, zero to anger to, creating the Z and stuff like that. And so mine was yelling and stuff. So it's not anymore. I don't have the anger. I've worked through a lot of childhood stuff, a lot of trauma. And also, for me, the foundation of everything we go through, no matter what it is, no matter how you put a bow on it and you tie it and you give it a new name and definition and stuff, it's fear and it's shame. The foundation of everything we do is how are we addressing our shame foundation? And it's not guilt, it's the deeper word, shame, and if we're shameful, then someone can do something little, and then that makes us feel bad about ourselves, feels guilty, feels angry, like that creates all the responses. And it's amazing how when I really started addressing that, and I addressed a lot of lineage and DNA in my family, lifeline was shame. My earliest memory of doing plant medicine, I did DMT and I just boogered and slobbered, eyeballs puffed shut, and just rocking back and forth with so much shame, so much shame, so much generational shame and stuff. And when it started to really come up and then I started releasing it, it's amazing how even the little things didn't trigger me. Like if I accidentally cut somebody off in traffic, I used to be like, oh, that used to make, and I'm like, and they drove by me fast and flipping me off or whatever, like that would be like a little tweak in my stomach and shame. And now I'm just like, okay, having a bad day, whatever and stuff. And it's amazing how it helps you release so much if you can just make yourself proud. Turn, if we're all looking for love outside of ourselves, how do I turn around and just love myself more? And then, like I said, all of that is the components of the shame word.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
shame can show up so many different ways for people,
right,
depending on their upbringing, right? And their
right,
perception of what shame is in their world,
right, right.
right?
Yeah,
And being able to release that does empower you. It really does. But for some, it might be very, very, very difficult. And if
Yeah,
you're not even in a place of acknowledging shame in yourself, then you're even more stuck.
right.
If there's
Well,
not a lot of accountability and the shame that you
yes,
have,
right.
that's kind of step one is
Yes.
admitting to yourself, where you're accountable for these feelings you're having.
Right, right. And that's why breaking down victimhood. Like, oh my gosh, I really am walking around as a victim of my life. Like, oh my gosh, I do feel powerless. I feel like he's having a good day. That means I can't have a good day. That person's, just try, like I want to see more of the world. And I meet people who have like seen even more of the world than I have. And I go into a place of like, oh my gosh, does that mean that that's not going to happen to me? Am I jealous? Am I this, that, and the other thing? And I have to remind myself again I'm not powerless. I don't have to be angry or frustrated about that. I just get to remember to take my power back and remember that I can love myself in those moments. And again, just being like, okay, this just because where I'm at in this moment in time doesn't mean I'm not going to see more of the world when I'm ready to do so. And
Right.
there's that hopelessness word or the opposite of
Right.
hopeless and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and my favorite thing, this is why I love to also work with animals. Animals are amazing in showing us our mirror image, showing us where we're at. So over and over again, I get a client, let's say, who has an animal who is has fear, anxiety, and they're going, I don't understand why she's so anxious. Well, what is the energy that she gets from you? Are you grounded? Are you do you take time to sit down and just be in your life? Are you taking life a little bit more in stride? Are you, what is what are your adrenals doing? Are you drinking enough water? Even something with adrenals, because your adrenals sit right on top of your kidneys. Are you dehydrated? Are you drinking too much caffeine? Like there's all these things that our animals will show us. The other thing our animals show us is how to be more empowered in our lives, which I have found that animals come into our lives to challenge us in order to teach us, right? My animals, I keep on ending up with French bulldogs. I don't look for them. I keep on rescuing them and ending up with them. And, French and bulldogs are bullheaded. Like, oh, good, there's another well I get to dig up here. Yay, an even deeper level as I'm like angrily deep digging another level of unearthing another layer of my patience and my calm and my saying a command and then waiting them out to listen to it, and stuff like that. So it's just amazing how we get what we get what we need, not necessarily always what we want. My favorite thing also about animals is animals don't want to hear their stories retold of trauma. They don't want to hear their stories retold of loss. They don't want to hear their stories retold of their sad circumstances or where they originated. And us as humans, if we keep on telling them that, that also keeps them in their victimhood. So one of my favorite stories, this was like the turning point for me. I was volunteering at a large animal sanctuary, and because I wanted to learn large animal care, I have plans on getting a farm one day and all that kind of stuff with saving cows and all that good stuff. And the barn was it's just this beautiful barn, and it has this walkway down the cement walkway down the middle of the barn, and then all the stalls are to your right and your left. And I'll never forget coming in contact with hogs. And hogs aren't pigs. Hogs are 600 to 800 pound hogs. These things are impressive. And I'll never forget like pulling up and watching those happy hogs walking out to the yard and that sort of thing with their ears all white because their ears burn in the sunshine. So we put sunblock on their ears in the morning and stuff like that. So the cute giant ears won't burn. And you see those boys walking out like they're just life is great. And they were such frat boys to me. I sort of refer to them as the fraternity, the hog fraternity, because they were all male hogs and they just had this way of being with each other, like, like they sounded like they were sharing private jokes and all this amongst themselves and stuff, that kind of thing. And they didn't like the interesting thing also about hogs is they don't want to be in their filth. They don't want to be in their feces and their urine. So what they would do is we'd clean out their giant pen with all the hay or with all the straw, and they didn't want to get the straw dirty, so they'd stick their butts through the fence into the middle walkway in the aisle in the barn, and they'd pee in the walkways. So then we'd be like, "Thank you. Now I get to clean up this." And then I swear they would laugh like, "Ha ha ha ha. Yeah, you're welcome," and then just walk off kind of thing. Ah, such characters. They were so much in this stage of life was light, life was happy, life was good. No, not a worry in the world and that sort of thing. And I'll never forget cleaning out the hog pen the one time, and they were all out. Oh no, the one largest one was laying there in the straw. And the woman who owns this sanctuary gives tours every once in a while. And she's walking into the barn, and her way of receiving donations from the people she was showing around, she was either online, she'd have a camera and doing a live, televised or, live event, and also had people with her. And she would tell the stories of all the pens she would pass, like that sheep, this happened in traumatic in their life. This goat has this and that sort of thing. This one came from here. This one came from that. This one, their original beginning was this traumatic, dot, 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 dot. Every time she came into that barn and she'd walk and she'd get down to almost the hog pen, if the hogs were inside, they would hear her voice, wake up from their nap, and go outside. And the attitude was, wait a second, I don't want to hear my old story. I don't want to hear how I fell off a truck, and things like that. Are you kidding me? I'm living my best life. They no longer wanted to hear the stories of the past. They no longer wanted to stay in that looping, um, you know, as we say, victimhood, looping, patterns and triggers and traumas and stuff like that. And animals are so different than humans in that sense, like literally removing themselves from that, listening to her tell their their sad story again and stuff. So I even at one point told her that and said, just so you know, this is the way animals live and da 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 da, as much as I can. There are animals that have been abused to the extent that they all are very mistrusting of humans and their systems are shot, their adrenals are shot. Once I treat the body of the animal and start treating the organs to release those emotions, it's amazing even then how they live in their present. They live in their gratitude. They live in their, happiness and peacefulness and their nose in the air and laying in the sunshine, with their ears covered in sunblock kind of thing. So I always try to channel the lessons of the animals in there in that area as well.
Yeah, if only we can like learn more from them, right? And pay
Right.
attention to how they let things go.
Right. And
You
also
know?
what they're showing us.
Yeah.
Learn from what they're, oh my gosh, my animal's struggling with this. What does that say about what I'm going through? Like where's that emotion that I'm also experiencing? Or where does that call for me to step more into my power? Am I being powerless? Am I being in my shame? Am I being in my anger and that sort of thing? So,
Yeah, and some people use their animals as the scapegoat too. Like I can't do this or that because my dog has asthma or whatever. It's like, or something's wrong with the dog. The dog has anxiety. The dog's aggressive. The dog is this, the dog is that. Okay, I hear you. But let's talk about you.
exactly.
You know,
And how can you
there's
step into that power to change that behavior to help, Yeah, absolutely.
right. And you have to tread lightly around that with humans because everyone gets so offended, if the wind blows the wrong way. And you gotta be sensitive around that,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So, but oftentimes if the dog's got an issue, it's a reflection of the human's issue in some
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
right? If you have an angry dog or, let's check in with your anger issues. What kind of vibration are you putting out there?
Right.
And it's don't blame the dog.
Yeah.
They're
And the
feeding
dog
off of the human.
and the dog doesn't have anger issues. The dog is fearful. Like we think it's, and we'd interpret it as anger. We go into an angry place. So if your dog is fearful, reactive, and then the human's just like, that's, we go into anger, we go into frustration, we go into a lack of patience and all that kind of stuff, versus, okay, maybe there's some training I need to do, there's a deeper well I can dig of patience here and stuff like that. And that's the beauty of dog training. It's not dog training, it's human training. And how can you help your dog become a more calm, or you become more of a calm, assertive alpha, but how can you help your dog then also look to you and trust you and know that they
Right.
don't have to be reactive in those, or aggressive in those situations and stuff? Like, that's why I always, when people say my dog is mean, your dog isn't mean. They're not mean. They're literally just reacting. It's an animal instinct to, if they don't have a alpha that they trust and they look to and stuff like that, then there's a reason they're being reactive. And I've worked with some of the hardest cases in my days of rehabilitating and stuff like that. And trust me, it's, my lesson is constantly, oh, look, like I said, a deeper layer of patience. And how can I be this? How can I be the alpha that they need in their lives in order for them to, you know, yeah, to settle into their bodies? And like I said,
Yeah.
that's also the beauty of, I have to tell you, I have the most amazing clients though. It's amazing when I work on the animal and you start resetting the adrenals and you calming the adrenals, and they're not the animals aren't constantly working on their, I call it their backup, their generator. They literally tune into the chi of their body and the energy systems of their body, and how they're calm, how they don't bark anymore. Oh my gosh, my bird isn't screaming all the time, or my cat isn't walking around meowing and constantly needing to eat because it has, liver stuff going on and digestion. And it's amazing how when they start seeing this and they start seeing the shifts and changes in their animals, they go into, how can I do more for myself? How can I also create this shift within myself? And I always, again, suggest energy therapies. I do
Mhm.
suggest plant ceremonies, and microdosing did wonders for me as well with the looping thought processes
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
poor me. I also swear by, I also do I've done neurofeedback. I swear the majority of the world needs neurofeedback because they don't realize that they've experienced traumatic brain injuries, either due to vaccinations or head trauma, and stuff like that. And like I said, then I'm a huge believer in what I do, which is working with frequency and stuff too. So,
Yeah. It would be interesting just as an experimental kind of scenario for some that might have a dog with an issue or a cat with an issue, just to like first check in with what you're projecting energetically in
mhm.
your own home and just experiment with some grounding exercises, experiment with some ways to shift things into more of a calmer vibration for you. Check in with your thought patterns on what is reeling in your head when your dog responds a certain way. What are you thinking in that moment or right before the dog reacts? What was in your head? Because they feel everything you feel,
Hmm. Hmm.
in a more heightened, sensitive way,
Hmm.
just as for a fun thing.
Right.
Shift your energy, do some meditation, even if it's a guided, there's a plethora of them on YouTube. If you need help, put on your headphones,
Mhm.
sit in meditation in a room with your animal
Yeah. Yeah.
and just see how they respond to that
Right.
for
I
the
agree.
rest of the day.
Hmm.
Maintain that energy, that calm inside your own body and in your own head, and just observe
Hmm.
how your animals are different, just
Hmm.
for fun, without an expectation around it, right?
Or a
Just
train.
as an observation of something different and new that might be profoundly educational and create some more self-awareness in your space. And
Yeah. Yeah.
there's power in that, right? We're talking about victimization in this podcast. There's a lot of things that you can do by choice
Right.
to move very gently, very lovingly out of that space of blaming everybody else for your
Right.
crappy life.
And that also applies to when your animal reacts, because whether, the animals have a heightened sense of smell and hearing. So let's say they sense something and they react to something before you're even aware of what it is. And let's say it scares you. Do you go into anger, screaming at them mode, or do you again go into this mode of like, oh, wait, let me check in and see, okay, let me get in front of them. Like my favorite thing is, if my dogs are barking at the window, I get with my back to the window and I step into them. I'm like, okay, bop, 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 bop. I get it. I see them. I see that there's someone walking by. It's okay. It's okay. And send them off on their way. But it's me not getting into this stage of like, I said enough, da da da. Instead, stepping in their line of vision and being like, this is mine. This is my house. You're gonna back up and you're gonna, I thank you for letting me know. And now you're going to quiet down. So stepping into my power, even if my first response can be anger or frustration and then the other thing I do find with clients is you start unraveling what's going on with their animals, and the hard thing is then they go into shame. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that he had a kidney infection all this time, and I've been so angry with him because he's been peeing, and he's had to pee in the house and that sort of thing. And it's like, well, it's okay. Once again, let's dive into, for you, what's the shame? How can we start addressing your shame? And then it's amazing when you're not burdened by all that weight, how you do start observing your life, how you do start observing your animal and what's going on with them. And this is shifted and something's changed and that, same. And I'm also a believer in the house. I'm telling you, our houses hold
Mhm.
frequency and energy. And are they grounded? I've even cleared people's homes because some of their houses, they've moved into houses that had some wild energy, and their animals have absolutely been reacting to energies and frequencies within the household and stuff and residual stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
hmm
Mhm. Might have been left there if you move into a house that had previous ownership, right?
Oh my gosh, my house. My
I
house was
felt that.
1927. Yeah.
Yeah,
Holy
this
cow.
this
Ugh.
house that I live in now, the previous owners got divorced and they both skipped town and like left this
Mm.
house abandoned, and it became a HUD home, and it got lost in the MLS and it was sitting here vacant for 2.5 years. I don't know how the heck that happened in our community, but it was waiting for us, and
Yeah.
I walk in and I saged the whole house. I cleared everything out before we moved any of our belongings in because I could feel it,
hmm
like
hmm
in the walls, in the carpet that I'm trying to afford to replace at some point. It's a lot of money, but um
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe that energy led to my divorce in this house. Who knows? But maybe
Your empowerment, but
it's a
that would be your
divorce house. But
empowerment, your
um
liberation,
it what?
your liberation that
Yeah.
led to
Yeah,
your
it gave me the
divorce and liberation.
strength
Yeah.
to liberate for
hmm
sure,
hmm
but yeah, absolutely. I mean, the energy is everywhere, and the animals can feel it a lot more intensely than we do. And what you're putting out, and even the thoughts that you have, if you're not even verbalizing anything, your animals feel that from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got
I have to
to
tell,
love
I
and
have to
honor
quickly.
your critters. You got to keep yourself in that good space so they feel
True.
comfortable and safe when they're relying on you,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
For
so true.
survival.
They say
And
the
if they
two.
don't feel safe and protected
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Or
you,
that, right. That you cannot fall.
they're going to behave differently. That's
Yeah.
just the way
Yeah.
that it is.
They say the two most powerless pe souls on the planet are animals and children. So that makes us no longer powerless. That makes us powerless as children and powerless as as the animals. And to me, that always makes my heart grow one size larger to remember, you know, my animals feeling powerless and stuff, and how I can affect that and how I can be that calm alpha and stuff. But I have to tell you a quick story also of my house. So my house is 1927. And this house had never been loved. They had never even, in all those winters, had never changed the windows. I don't know how they didn't freeze to death in this house, but you would go down in the cellar. I swear, I'm not creeped out by anything. It's very rare. Things, I mean, I get goosebumps on the back of my neck, but nothing normally creeps me out. I went down in that cellar and you open the door to the one room, and it used to be a coal chute where they used to, out by the driveway, used to dump the coal down in, and then they'd scoop it and then bring it upstairs and put it in the fireplace up here, or the oven, the stove here and stuff like that. And I used to swear that I would open the door to that room, just even like cleaning out the cellar, that if I saw a human bone sticking out of the dirt, it would not have surprised me because, when there was still trash down there, but I was like constantly convinced I was going to find body parts. And, oh, so the energy of this house never been loved, never been honored, never had been respected, and all that kind of stuff. And she's a different girl now. Yeah.
This is very lucky to have you. You have a great little spot. She's got a little bungalow in Old Town, and it's really a cute house.
It is.
Yeah.
She's a lot of work sometimes, but she's worth it and stuff. So, yep. And we're happy here. That's what matters.
Yeah. Well, the energy feels really good when I come over,
Thank you.
although
Same
I
here.
haven't been in your cellar. So
Oh, I know. Even the
maybe you should
cellar's
take me
better.
down there with my Ghost Radar app and we can
I'm telling you, nope, it
sit
doesn't
down
have
there
it,
for a little
but it
bit.
doesn't have that anymore. Like I even had friends who came in and they're like the witchiest poos of the witchy poos, and they would go down there and they would be like, whoa, this is just, ugh. So we had to do some serious clearing of that cellar. It was profound. And it was part of that energy wasn't just the house, it was the energy in the earth and the trauma that happened here, you know, of souls here from in the earth and stuff like that. That was, that. And now it doesn't. Now it just has spiders, and spiders don't bother me and stuff, but it's not remotely creepy or gross or anything like that. People can go down there and like, oh, okay, it's not bad. So, but it took some time to get to that point.
Well, that's
So,
wonderful. I'm glad that you cleared it all out. And, spirit's cool and everything, unless it's not, right?
I know exactly. Exactly. All are welcome except for
I've had
that.
a little bit of both in my day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this has been really awesome. Thank you so much for being on with me. And hopefully, these little tips and tricks and kind of just mere ways to be more self-aware,
Mhm.
on what you're putting out there. What messages are showing to your animals and even the humans around you?
Mhm.
If you're, being a victim is draining to everything and everyone that's in your inner circle. So, just keeping that in mind that it's going to push people away, it's going to push your animals away, if you stay stuck in that low vibration, right?
Well, and you get to
And
the
there's
point where you
ways
just
out
get
of it.
right. And you get to the point where you just get sick of
You
yourself.
get,
Because I
you
can
reach your
speak from
crap
my
level with
exact
yourself, right? And
exactly.
you're
I'm
like, okay,
so sick of myself. So
I
true.
want to see me on the other side of this,
Yes.
strong and functioning and
Hmm.
contributing to society in a healthy way, right?
Hmm.
You get
Loving
to
myself,
you get
feeling
to that point.
expansive, arms open wide, heart centers open, especially for ourselves. Releasing that shame so little things don't trigger us, and all of the above. Yeah, like I said, you just get to, and I mean it sincerely. You get to the point where you're just like, you know what? Enough of this. I can't even stand being around myself anymore. Like something's got to
Right.
change.
And
Yeah.
it's not even about, to me, necessarily forgiving somebody else,
Yeah.
right? Because what happened happened, and
Hmm.
maybe there is no way to forgive, but you can forgive yourself
Yes.
for a lot of different things,
Yeah. Very
right?
true.
And you can make a choice to move forward or to
Hmm.
stay in a rut.
Right.
We have one life, we have a short amount of time. And as we all know, as we get older, the days, the weeks, the months fly by.
Hmm.
And before we know it, a decade's passed,
And do you want to
and
do this life over
what are
again
you going
too?
to do with that time lost? What's the
Right.
next decade going to look like? Make a choice to do something better for yourself, to feel better, to be more, to get yourself out there and live your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
I
and
think the two things for me are first and foremost, I really try to remind myself that life is happening for me, not to me.
yes,
So
that's a
everything and
powerful
everyone,
self-statement. Yeah.
right, right. And so everybody stepping into my life, what are they showing me about myself? That's the mirror image again. What are they showing me where I get to dig deeper? All that. And the second thing is, um, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this lifetime over again. Like with my husband, I'm like, you better bet your butt I'm going to work my ass off so I can get rid of this cheating stuff in my lineage and all of this stuff and picking the same, pattern of man over and over again or pattern in
Right.
relationship over and over again. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do this again with him. So
Right.
I'm going to, do my work.
Conscious decision making, right?
Right.
Living your life with intentionality around doing bigger, better things. Yeah. I'm breaking that pattern too. Like I married a version of my dad, back in that moment, I didn't even really realize it until years later. And
Mhm.
breaking that cycle with my
Yeah.
partner now, he's a
Yeah.
completely different energy, a completely different personality, completely different person, goals, ambitions, thoughts, opinions, completely different than my first marriage.
Right. Yeah. I
There's
agree.
been a lot of evolution around that, and decision making of what I will not do again,
Right.
in repeating the patterns in your victimization. If you were stuck in something, not repeating those same things again
hmm
to get you back in the same place you were in that made you miserable.
Right.
Up your standards, pick healthy relationships, and that's with love and intimacy and friendships,
Yeah. And even
right?
and even if you do, you're still working through that pattern. You're still working through that process. And what many people will notice is even though I picked a relationship that had the same components to it, obviously there's an area there that I need to do more work. But there's still, if you give yourself still grace and go, oh, so now I'm one step closer to, processing that. And oh, look, I'm still picking the same friendships that are, triggering me in those ways. What is this showing me about, okay, there's another step I can take. There's more work I can do here. And, we all are working through patterns and traumas and that sort of thing. And everybody's just a reflection of where we're at. It doesn't mean who we
Right.
are, it means
Right.
where we are.
Right. And you may have someone in your life for a season and then they move out of your life. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that doesn't mean you're a victim of rejection. Let it
Mhm.
go. They move in, they move out. Relationships do that throughout your entire life.
Yeah.
And another big piece of advice is to not take things so personally,
Yeah.
right? Everybody's in their bubble, living their life, super distracted,
Yeah.
poor with time management. A lot of them are poor with money management. A lot of them are poor with relationship management. We're all in a state of overwhelm. The
Mhm.
world is noisy, it's moving very quickly, and having some grace around all of that, as far as
Mhm.
how you respond, is huge. And
Very
I've
true.
learned that lesson over years, the very hard ways of, feeling rejected and wondering what I did or what I said that made that person walk out of my life,
hmm
and maybe it had nothing to do with me. I don't really, you'll never know,
Yeah.
right? Don't dwell on it, move on.
hmm
There's plenty of other people to know that will think you're awesome,
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
will reach out to you and want to hang out and want to know you.
Right.
And as you get to know people, maybe those choices will change for you and you'll walk out of somebody else's life because
Right.
they're toxic. They drain you.
Right.
They're in victimization and you're really trying to grow out of it,
Right.
and just being very aware of what's around you energetically as far as other relationships with people, if you really want to move forward instead of staying stuck. Being
hmm
selective on who's in your inner circle is hugely important, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Very true.
You
And
don't
what
want
and
to hang
keeping
out
brain.
with other victims, you know? You
or
don't want to be
or
somebody's
people who
bullseye,
feed your victimhood and stuff like that.
right?
Like, yeah,
Be
yes,
self-aware. If you're one of those energy vampires and you're sucking energy from other people, be aware of that.
yeah,
Be aware of if there's someone in your life that sucks from you, be aware of that. Walk away from that.
right. And I
Boundaries.
think, and all
Boundaries
of
are
that
huge.
and all of that boils down to is, if you're not in a self-love place, then at least in a self-like place,
Yeah.
and I'm in a place now where it's taken me some time to really get to loving myself. And I make myself proud on a daily basis. I love my life and that sort of thing. I don't I s- you know I still have moments of loneliness and real emotions and that sort of thing, but the truth of the matter is I'm really at a place where I'm like open-hearted. I'm not afraid of being hurt. Take it or leave it. Whoever's going to come into my life is going to come into my life, and that's the thing. Like you said, I'm going to love them for a season, or it's not going to work out and stuff like that. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
there as well.
I really admire how strong that you have become through all of your trials and tribulations through all the years that I've known you,
Thank you.
and you've been through some deep grief and pain. And I really love to see who you are now and how solid you are in your own beliefs and strong,
Yeah.
powerful woman that you are considering, all
Yeah.
that you went through.
And
I'm super
ditto,
proud of you,
sister.
man.
Yeah. Thank you. And
You're
like I said,
awesome. You're badass. And I love our conversations. And, Tamara counsels me a lot, Like,
I'm like,
when
all
I
I can tell you is
when
what
I
I've
call her,
learned.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. And, you helped me so much through my divorce and my victimhood, right? When I was in the rawness of all of that and angry and blaming and, just moving through all those phases of, trauma.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much. You are a great friend,
Thank you. You are as well.
and a huge piece of my heart is with you for sure.
I know. I feel the same way about you,
You're
sister.
awesome.
Oh,
So, on that note, I'm gonna close today, and I'm gonna put all your show notes, info for Tamara if you want to get a hold of her. Um, all of her contact information. And I love that you're working with humans now, because that's kind of the root problem. Like when your dog's acting squirrely or your cat's pissing on the floor and your house plants, right? Like we need to start with the human condition because we are all so
yeah.
messed up.
Well, and
And
like I said, and to give a background story real quick is I'm a retired therapist, so I was a transformational life coach, and so I've worked with humans for years, and I love them. I love people. I genuinely love people,
we're all
and
just doing the
but
best
I
we
was just
can.
like, yeah, I'm like I just want to stay in my lane for a little while with just animals. Animals are a little bit easier. They just react to frequency and they shift, and there's
It's
not all
easy.
this you
Yeah.
know pulling everything off the shelves and throwing it into the mix kind of thing. So yes, I am full circle. I'm definitely trying to, I just want to help. The truth is, I truly love what I get to do, and
Yeah.
I really want to help people, help their animals, and help themselves.
I
Absolutely.
think it was kind of inevitable, truly, honestly, as you meet more animals and you hear the humans' version of their story, it's inevitable. You got to work on the people
Hmm.
doing your work. And I can vouch for the stuff that Tamara does. She has helped me with my reflux. Like I haven't had a reflux issue going on 4 weeks with her
Yay. Hmm.
bioresonance. I had this pain in my chest on the left side because my body's been numb on my left side for many years through my divorce, just protecting my heart, and it's starting to wake up again. And it feels like when I do body work, I'm like soaking everybody's crap up into my left arm because it's been sleeping for so long and now it's waking up and it really doesn't know how, like the protection needs to be relearned in a
Hmm.
sense. So I've been picking up pain and stuff and chest pains and anxiety triggers on that left side because that left side's starting to talk to me again, and you cleared that out for me.
Nice.
So
And then
that I
anxiety,
haven't
how's your
had that
anxiety?
pain in the chest for a couple weeks,
Oh, good. Yay.
and you've been also working on my adrenals. That's a new thing that you've been working on with me to help me with anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and just energy levels.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling with that? Does that feel a little calmer?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, my
depends?
mind's in a good place. I'm
Okay,
excited for the
good.
future of my finance business, and things are going really well, and I'm staying
Yay.
positive,
Yeah. And then drinking
and
lots
I'm
of water
running,
too.
I'm running more, and that's feeling really good.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. Like I said, that you could even run now because even that could be frying your adrenals. So same thing. Then
Right. I
drinking
just
lots
did,
of
I
water.
knew like my intuitive hits were telling me, you have anxiety. You're in fight or flight for like your whole life. You need to go running.
Run away,
You
run
need to
away.
go running.
Yes,
Run
but like
like
I
the
said though,
wind, woman.
that can be
And I'm just
great.
like, no, I'm good. There's no mountain lion chasing me.
Yes.
And I made all these excuses.
But there's really,
Knew
I
inside
mean,
it would make me feel better. I was self-sabotaging.
well, and like I said, though, there's an element there of, and here's your grace, is what if your body was actually telling you, we don't have running in us right now. Your adrenals you are existing
Kind of
off
felt
that
that
backup
way.
system. And so
Yeah.
I don't think it
Yeah.
as self-sabotaging. I see it more as like your body was like, nope, I'm just tapped out.
I'm
So
just
maybe
fried.
because
Yeah.
now your adrenals you're not functioning just off the backup system that you can run and you're finding joy in it and stuff like that.
I'm loving it. It's
And
like,
running away from the saber-toothed tiger chasing you.
right. Like I'm running away from my stress, and my anxiety. It's like it's a moving meditation.
Yeah.
You get to that point where your legs kind of go numb a bit. And
Yeah.
that's
And
like
that rhythm, that
that's
bum,
the
bum,
happy
bum,
place
bum.
where you
Mhm.
feel like you're hovering over the ground and you can really clear out a lot of anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anger for me was a big one,
Hmm.
and the anxiety, the fear of the future stuff.
Yeah.
I just feel good.
Yeah.
And, I'm adding miles as my body allows for it, but
Right.
even a little bit,
Yeah.
even running around the block feels
Right.
good,
Good for you.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's getting out of that victimization, right? Because the victimization kept me sitting on my butt making excuses for not moving.
Right. And like I said, but your victimization maybe wasn't moving and stuff like that. So you weren't maybe doing creative things for yourself, but maybe there was also, like I said, your body's protection saying, we don't have that running in us.
Yeah.
But, and like I said, start out small, whether
Yeah.
it's like for me, I'm back to painting. Like I
Oh,
just
that's
love to paint.
great.
So I find myself really drawn to doing that, working with jewelry and that sort of thing. So on days
Yeah.
that I'm just, even working up to this full moon, my body just feels tired and a little bit more fried and working with clients and stuff like that, it's a little bit more draining. So I sit down and I really give myself the grace to, rather than go, 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 I'm like, I'm going to paint, I'm going to do jewelry and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it for the listener? What is it in you that would make you feel like you loved yourself a little bit more or even liked yourself a little bit more? Like,
Right.
what is
Right.
it going to take for you to really turn that page?
Right. Honoring
Maybe
yourself.
it is
Exactly. Yeah.
just getting out and walking around the block. Take your dog. Your dog would love you for it. Just anything that's going to get you out of your head and get you in a place of moving forward, building confidence
Mhm.
around not lying to yourself anymore. Make a goal, reach your goal. Start
Yeah.
with a small goal,
Yeah.
like a walk around the block,
Right.
right?
Right.
Start small, reachable goals every day that make you go, yeah, I did that. I'm
Yeah.
proud of myself,
Right.
and then add on to that with a
Right.
steady pace of I'm going to tell myself I'm going to go running or I'm going to go for a walk with my dog. I'm going to walk 2 miles with my dog and then do it and then
Right.
actually do it. The
Right.
lying to ourselves keeps us very stuck.
Well, and the five
You
second
know,
rule, right? There's the 5 second rule. You have 5 seconds and you start talking yourself out of an impulse to do something. So rather than allowing that 5 seconds to tick away and you go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. You instead go, nope, I'm just going to put on my shoes, my socks and shoes, and
Do
I'm
it.
just going to do, and I'm going to move.
Just do
And
it. And
sure
you'll be
enough, you
so
get
proud of yourself for
so proud of
doing it,
yourself.
for
Exactly.
not lying to yourself anymore and giving yourself those little bits of love
Right.
here and there
Mm-hmm.
that change your energy, that lift you up, that make you feel lighter and happier.
Right.
And it's just like one day at a time kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice,
Yes, I agree.
you know? I think
Right.
that's a great close right there.
I agree.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for
Bye,
being here.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and
Thank
thank
you,
you. Thank
everyone.
you
Look
all.
up Tamara in the show notes. She rocks.
So does
She'll help
Jill.
you in your critters.
Yeah. Oh,
It's an
thank you,
awesome
Jill.
thing. All right,
Love you,
honey.
love
We'll talk to you later.
you. Okay, sounds good. Bye.
That's a wrap for today, folks. Thanks for spending the time with me. And don't forget to check the notifications below on my social media links, my YouTube channel with self-care and meditations, as well as my omshantihealing.com website where you can get info on spiritual coaching and my online courses. And as always, if you do enjoy my podcast, don't forget to subscribe or sponsor below. We'll talk to you soon. Have a beautiful rest of your week. Bye-bye.